Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my Hearts of Iron 3 tutorial. I'm your lovely host, Kelvin, and today I'm going to be talking about how to play Hearts of Iron 3. And we're going to be doing the Attack of the West scenario, and we will be playing as the United Kingdom. I feel that they will allow me to teach you a bit more about how various mechanics in this game work. Alright, so immediately, right now, in the Attack of the West scenario, we start with Germany declaring war on Luxembourg, Belgium, and the Netherlands, with their Blitzkrieg prepared and ready to charge on through. Currently at peace with the Soviet Union. Now, currently we are playing as the United Kingdom. So where's Dunkirk? Here it is. Should probably start moving our troops over there. I'm not saying I don't have any faith in France, I'm just saying I don't have any faith in France. I mean, that's fair, right? But, first off, we're just going to start with some of the basic stuff. Unfortunately, Hearts of Iron 3 is considered a very complicated game, when it's actually surprisingly not as complicated as most people think. It just looks intimidating. So we're actually just going to start out with basics of production of units. Something that should be familiar to anybody who's played any Paradox game ever. The concept in which you produce units. Unlike in other Paradox games where you often produce units on a province basis, in Hearts of Iron you produce units on the national basis through the production tab. And you can see what I have in production currently. Because I am Britain, I have a whack load of boats and airplanes in production. Understandable. Now, each symbol here represents a different kind of unit. In particular, we have battleships, we have carriers. These are carrier air groups, the attachment, I suppose, for battleships, carriers that are deployed from them. You'll notice there's 2 for every carrier here. And it's overall actually pretty simple. Now, what else do we have? Well, in particular, we have a pile of different land units. Whole lot of them, actually. They all have special powers, and I'll get into that. We have various different types of aircraft, and we have various different types of seacraft. Now, in order to produce things, you need something that is known as industrial capacity. Industrial capacity is the total of your nation's, well, capacity to build things. You'll find if you look around in a lot of provinces, they actually have industrial capacity meters. You can, at any time, click this button, or in the production tab, there are buttons here that you can use to build other things, including industrial capacity. So in 319 days, I can build extra stuff, and considering I have a surplus of resources to an extreme degree, I could stand to do that. I can stand to have a lot more industrial capacity than I currently do. And in fact, it would actually be wise to do so in my current situation. Now let's talk about the resources. There are 3 resources related to industrial capacity: coal, metal, and rare resources. In order to create 1 unit of industrial capacity, you must consume 2 coal, 1 metal, and 0.5 rare resources. You can find various of these resources scattered around the map. If you go into the resources map mode, any province that has resources in it, or IC, it's industrial capacity buildings, will be highlighted in green. Well, that's not entirely true. You can still have resources without it. It's pretty rare, though. For example, here we have some rare resources in this province, but it's not actually green because it doesn't have industrial capacity. There's some oil here, but again, no actual IC. So generally speaking, you'll find them scattered throughout. Lots of coal here. Like here, for example. Tons of coal comes out of Cardiff. And, you know, a lot of us, unfortunately, do, as we are Britain, rely on a fair bit of overseas resources. Rather unfortunate, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. Alright, so, that's basics in order to get IC. You can, like I said, build and place more IC, and you can also have it temporarily disrupted by enemy bombers, so you need to sometimes be careful. Most oftentimes, you'll want to let the AI handle this. I generally prefer prioritize reinforcement. This will give me... the AI can take control of these sliders. The problem with trying to manage these sliders yourself is every day the numbers change. You have to come back here and adjust everything every day. And oftentimes, you can just tell the AI what's important. In this case, I think reinforcement, making sure that, you know, Our units are all at full strength and ready to fight. That's fine. If we have spare stuff, it'll go to upgrading. Secondary is production. That is the production of new units. So, in production now that I have 110 put into production, I will actually be able to construct all of this. Green means it's constructing at normal speed. Yellow means it's constructing at a less than 100% speed. This is the current speed at which it's constructing at. 19%. And if it's red, it means it's not building right now. However, if I advance time a day, hang on, let's move through a day, suddenly everything's green to 100% because I have the right amount of production. It's a pretty simple system. Short of it is, you need as much industrial capacity as you can afford with your resources. And unfortunately, it turns out I may not have as many resources as I thought. Damn. It was worth a try, I guess. Now, among other things, you can spend resources on upgrades. As you research new technologies, say new guns for your militia or infantry, then the infantry built before this will need to be upgraded in order to benefit from the technology. Each unit's tech level is tracked individually. So if I go and have a look, say, over here, let's have a look at these guys here. You'll notice here they have no light tank engine, no light tank armor. They have no small arms? They don't have anything. You'll notice, actually, I can't move my cursor off of them. Can I bring it up? Yeah, here we go. They legitimately have no techs equipped to them. They are the basic model. Basic model. Like, that is terrifyingly under-equipped. That's very bad. And, yeah, here we go. Yeah, no. And the plus 120, or 1.2% is how much is upgraded. So having a no here means they don't actually have the technology. They have tech level 0. And I have tech level 3 researched, so that's bad. They definitely need upgrades. You can produce units without certain techs. The screen, I'll get to that later. If you really need to reduce the costs. Yeah. So yeah, that's all they got, unfortunately. It's pretty poor. Is there something maybe with a little more... Maybe? Do we have anything maybe upgraded? No? No, okay. The answer is no. Our army is horrifically out of date. Come on, we've been at war for, like, almost a year now. Like, I would hope the UK's army is a bit more modern, but apparently it's not. Which is probably why it takes me 162 industrial capacity to be able to upgrade what I have. As it stands, I'll be doing it at a slightly reduced rate. God damn it. You can also reinforce units. In order to reinforce, that is to recover their strength, you know, sitting at 2,999 out of 3,000, they require industrial capacity. Simply put, if you don't have anything in this meter, they will slowly lose health and casualties from combat, and they won't be replenished, reducing their overall fighting effectiveness. Not good. Supplies. There's this resource up here that we know as supplies. And also fuel. And supplies and fuel are produced in different ways. Supplies is just produced straight from industrial capacity, whereas fuel is produced by refining crude oil. You'll note here, 198 converted. And I'm getting some from trade. And that's coming out of my crude oil stockpile for the most part. 110 to 198, that's actually not bad. We have a decent refinement rate, probably because of our strategic resource around here somewhere. Yeah, oil to fuel conversion, plus 50%. Not bad. I'll talk about strategic resources in a moment. I should probably get to that. So, these are critical for your battle. If you have no supplies, well, really shouldn't have to tell you what happens to your army when you don't have supplies. And if you don't have fuel, well, good luck moving your vehicles. Your vehicles will cease to be able to move, which is rather problematic, actually. Now, on that topic of rare resources or strategic resources, you'll find all throughout the world little special colored regions. So, out here, for example, we have helium, which means rockets build faster. Some more important ones include the automotive industry, which reduces tank build speed. Generally speaking, you need to try and get your hands on these. Heavy water helps with nuclear research by a fair bit. You can always see what you have access to up here. The Allies start in a pretty strong position with access to a decent quantity of stuff. They don't necessarily have to be in your faction to give you access to it, they just have to be closely aligned. For example, currently the US is not actually part of the Allies, but it is actually closely enough aligned, as it says there, to provide automotive industry, dockyard facilities, aluminum, prefab ship facilities, and helium to the United Kingdom. Everyone who's in the Allies gets these bonuses from the US. Closely enough but they have none. Who has a strategic resource and they aren't closely aligned? Well, you get the point. Once they're closely aligned enough, not necessarily joined your faction, they will provide you strategic resources to help you out. So it's actually very important to try and get a hold of certain countries. I mean, for example, Portugal, they usually don't side with people. And Spain, they both have access to tungsten, which is one of the most valuable resources, which improves your heart attack. Which leads me into next thing. How the hell does the units work? That's a good question. This is a giant, imposing chart. And to be fair, a lot of people would have trouble with this going, huh? This is a lot of info. They're not wrong. So, first off, we're just actually going to go left to right here. Strength is pretty basic. That is the that is the amount of strength it has. You'll find units that don't have frontage will have less strength. They are very shitty if they end up on the front line. Like 1/3 is effective. Do not let them on the front line. It really is as simple as that. Organization is the equivalent to what it is in any other Paradox game. As units take battle damage, they will lose organization. And if they hit 0 organization, they can no longer fight. They were removed from combat. So the more organization they have, the better. You can improve organization through various technologies. It's generally through land, naval, and air. So for example, if you go to land here, we can get infantry warfare, which improves infantry organization. So if we want to improve our infantry's ability to fight, infantry warfare is a good technology to research. Now, of course, they all have different technologies associated with them. Combat width. Well, as anyone who's played EU4 understands, most battles have combat width. And this is true to the fact in Hearts of Iron all the same. There is a combat width decided by the terrain. It's a very small combat width in mountains. But there is one difference I will talk about. In Hearts of Iron, the number of attacking provinces affects the combat width. So, let's say, for example, the Germans attacked 2 ways into Luxembourg, right? Both ways into Luxembourg. Then the combat width actually doubles. Normally it is one province to one province. It's 10. But if a second province joins in the attack, the combat width doubles to 20, as there is more frontage. You can fit more troops along this whole thing than you can along just this, which is fair. So if you have a larger army, you need to keep it split up and try and, attack from multiple points. Otherwise, your army is going to find itself rather quite ineffective in combat. So, that's combat width. You'll find that most things have a combat width of 1, unless it's a vehicle, then it has a combat width of 2. If they have a combat width of 0, that means they take up no frontage. They are a support unit. You'll also notice that they generally have a strength of 1k. This can be good for things, like artillery has the flat ability just to attack things without ever really coming into threat, unless your front line is broken apart. Don't have that happen. And that leads us into the attacks. There are 2 kinds of attacks in this game, a soft attack and a hard attack. Now, you'll find multiple values for different things. Artillery is very high in soft attack. That means it's actually very good at killing infantry, but its hard attack is pretty crummy, and isn't very good at killing tanks. Tank destroyers, the opposite. Basically, there is a value here. Here it is, softness. Basically, every time an attack is made, it will be rolled against the softness, and it will either come up as a hard attack or a soft attack. Having a softness of 15% means only 15% of the attacks made against this unit will be soft attacks, whereas the other 85% will be heart attacks. This means that an infantry fighting against a regular armor, 85% of the infantry's attacks against the armor will be heart attacks, which the infantry is not very good at. But 15% of the time it'll get to use its soft attack modifier, which is a little better. Unfortunately for the infantry, it has a softness of 100%, which means it will never have a hard attack against it. It will always be a soft attack, and the armor is okay at soft attacks. You know? And that's great. And now we have piercing attack and armor. These two go hand in hand. Basically, imagine armor as damage reduction, and then piercing attack as the ability to bypass damage reduction. So, in this case, an armor attacking an armor, there would be no penalties. The piercing attack is equivalent to the armor. If the armor was 6, and the piercing attack was only 5, it would have a damage resistance of 1. This means, a significant advantage. However you want to do it. You can customize this. We'll get to that later when we get to research. Air attack. This is attacks made against air. You'll find not many things have it, except for maybe, anti-aircraft, motorized anti-aircraft. Defensiveness. This is how many times a brigade can have a chance of avoiding being hit while in the defense. This is the complicated thing. Every unit makes an attack each hour. Alright? So, well, it makes a number of attacks, actually. It makes a number of attacks. And the higher the defensiveness, the more number of times it can avoid taking damage. It's as simple as that. It's basically how many times can you dodge damage before you actually start taking hits. The higher the defensiveness when being attacked, it will have it will have no casualty rate until all of its defensiveness is gone for that hour. Now you're probably asking, well, how many attacks does it make in an hour? And that's variable. It depends on the unit's strength and other factors, as well as this soft attack, hard attack. I think it's actually strength times that. I honestly have no idea offhand. Anyway, so defensiveness and toughness is the same as defensiveness, but it applies when the unit is attacking. That means when you're attacking another province, not being attacked. It's a little more complicated. I'm just trying to make it as simple as I can. And I apologize, I'm probably not coming across as clear as I could. I just don't want to have to spend 15 minutes explaining this, because it's the nuances of combat in Hearts of Iron 3 are a little bit on the complicated side, and I haven't had a chance to move my troops into combat to actually show you combat. So we're going to head over here. We're going to give the Germans the old what for. German enforced conquer on Luxembourg. Well, that didn't take long. Yep, you're taking steps to align yourself to the Allies. A wise choice. Italy is mobilizing. Alright. I'm trying to get some troops up to the front line, so we can have a nice, good old fight with the Germans here. Nepal's mobilizing. Of course. More resources. We'll talk about trade in a bit. And strategic fighting. Stupid Soviets stealing our blueprints. Now, there we are. Alright, so we've just successfully gotten into combat. This is actually terrible for us. Now, there's a lot of things going on this combat screen. This tells us who the primary attacker is. What the current odds of the battle are. Who the current defender is. And the current terrain type. And then there are a list of modifiers currently applied. There's the leader's skill. Lieutenant General Alexander is skill 5. He's very good. Kunzen's only skill 3. Generals as they fight will increase in skill. You'll notice there's a little experience number under it. When that battle reaches 100, they will gain either a skill up or gain a trait. And traits have various effects. For example, Logistics Wizard reduces supply consumption. I know that much. So leader skill is in our favor. Stacking penalty. And this is part of the problem with frontage and why I purposely sent all of my guys in. I'm attacking with a lot of dudes here. There's 10 combat width. And, like, these 4 alone are enough to fill it up. All these guys are waiting in reserve and cannot enter the battle. And by having all these guys in reserve, I'm reducing the overall effectiveness. Having them in the battle is bad. It means they take up the supplies that would otherwise need to get to the front, and it makes moving things around, making sure they aren't in any danger from enemy artillery and stuff. It makes it a mess trying to command and keep everything controlled. So the short of it is a stacking penalty is applied. Now if we have a look over here, stacking penalty, minus 46%. Minus 46%. That's huge. Huge. You gotta be careful and not attack with too many things when you go at it. And you can have a stacking penalty when defending too, so again, you want to try and keep your army spread out. If you just try and doom stack your way all the way to Moscow, it's gonna hurt so bad for you. Oh, so bad. The stacking penalty will destroy you, unfortunately. Experience. The more experience is coming into play. We have some experience units. They have some experience units. There's a river crossing penalty. Some people are getting a combined arms bonus. And there's also a terrain penalty. So, you know, this is basic stuff here. We'll talk about combined arms later. It's a pretty easy concept. And these are the tactics the generals decided to use. Now, people familiar with... Crusader Kings 2 should understand tactics. Every so often, depending on the general's skill and everything like that, they choose different tactics. In this case, Alexander has chosen the attack tactic. It's a basic attack tactic which gives us a small damage bonus. Whereas Kunsen has chosen the ambush tactic. This means that minus 25% damage. And each tactic has a counter and is countered by something. Well, I guess it doesn't counter anything, but it's countered by a counterattack. So if Alexander had drawn out and decided to do a breakthrough, then I'd be kicking his ass. Unfortunately, the ambush worked in his favor. Combat proceeds as normal, because there's no counters. Needless to say, countering someone's tactics is bad. It can turn a tide of a battle really quickly. So, we're going to pull back most of our units from combat, and we'll see just how drastically... No, we actually lost there. It's because I pulled back the wrong units. Oops. Oh, well. So yeah, that's the basics of the battle screen. Anyway. So we're going to get back to talking about the units again. So we've talked about toughness and defensiveness. And air defense, the counterpart to air attack. Makes no sense. We talked about softness already. It's, you know, whether or not an attack against hard or a unit will be hard or soft. Against air, it's always air. There is no other for it. You'll notice they don't even have armor. It's pretty basic. You use air attack against air, which means, you know, interceptors have a pretty high air attack, generally. Whatever their air attack is. There it is. Air attack 6. Whereas their ability to attack ground units not so great, where, say, a bomber's is significantly better. So, that's about it. And then speed. This is how fast the unit moves. Simple as that. If you have multiple units grouped together, they will move at the slowest speed of the units in combined. So, having infantry and everything tends to slow you down a fair bit. Suppression is related to rebels and can be for the most part ignored. The only things that matter, the only thing that really matters is like military police and garrisons. They're pretty meh. If you conquer territory, rebels can spring up, and they're a real minor nuisance. And you generally don't have to worry about them. So it's okay. You can generally ignore suppression entirely. Supply and fuel consumption. This is how much it consumes each day. Simple as that. It's important to note that vehicles do not consume fuel while moving. Or they might consume a reduced amount. They don't consume the full amount, however. Being in combat counts as moving. Officers. This is this concept here. If I mouse over this little flag at the top of the screen, we have a number of officers. Basically, this is my maximum organization. It caps out at 100, although the number can go higher. It's generally a good idea to have it higher. Having enough officers is critical. If you have less than 100% officers, you have, like, if I have, say, 50% of the officers I need, my maximum organization is only 50. Like, imagine a 50% morale penalty in EU4, and realize just how devastating that is. You need 100% officers at the very least. You'll want more if you can get it. Alright? All different brigades require different amounts of officers. So, you'll find militia very light on officers. Makes them useful for some things. This is the build cost in IC. This is the daily cost to build the thing at full speed. So, armor costs a lot to build. Infantry, hell of a lot cheaper. This is how much manpower it costs. Manpower being, about the same in all Paradox games. I shouldn't have to explain that too much. It's how many people you got to fight. And the number of days it will take to build. Now, number of days it takes to build is very, very elasticy. It's not going to be the same, ever, for any length of time. It'll probably actually go up and down as you build things. And so even then the number is generally off by a couple. Alright, so we're going to talk a little more here. That's mostly it for land. We're going to talk now about the division structure. So, in order to make a division, you just have to combine 4 of these brigades. Some of the most common ones, for example, are infantry, artillery, and either another artillery, if you have good aircraft coverage, which we do, or you want to put in, like, anti-aircraft. Now, the reason you do this is generally because then you can stack a lot of these together. If with only 1 infantry, you only have, you only have 1 combat width, so I can stack 10 of these in a province and have a ton of supporting artillery, which, generally works quite well for shock tactics. Unfortunately, it's slow and unmaneuverable, which can prove problematic if you happen to have a hole in your line anywhere. Be careful. Some other basic stuff, you may wish to simply combine, infantry, some armor. We have light armor, so we'll probably pop some anti-tank, some artillery, and an engineer brigade. Oh, no, we can't. No, we don't have enough room for the engineer brigade yet. You can raise the maximum allowed to 5. And this is generally to get nice combat. No, not combat. Combined arms bonus. Combined arms bonus is when you combine infantry plus multiple things here. The more you combine here with infantry, the higher this bonus gets. This brigade, because of its combined arms, or rather not brigade, sorry, division, because of its combined arms capabilities, will fight 15% better. If I, take out the infantry, it's got no combined arms anymore. So, if I put in 2 cavalry, 2 light armor for a sort of reconnaissance thing, it'll have 5% better. Because it doesn't have, say, artillery and AA in it. Which is fine. And you can see the overall stats. Brigades don't fight on their own, you see. They fight as a division. So, you can mix and match. You can take a tank destroyer. You also can't produce a division if it has 0 frontage. And you can take anti-aircraft. You can take some infantry. There you go. And divisions fight together, so that's the important thing to note. So this is the division's total status. That means that anti-aircraft, which have a very high air defense, protect everything from taking air damage, while also being able, gives the division the ability to fight back. That's what's important. So, having something like that to cover your flanks, or cover you from bombing runs, is crucial. Unfortunately, this does mean that anti-aircraft, for example, will not cover adjacent or brigades divisions in the same province, but not actually part of its current division. So mix and match and try and find a decent balance, depending on who you're fighting. Like, not gonna lie, if you're fighting Germany, you probably want a lot of heart attack. They are known for using tanks, and you might want some armor. Maybe some. We have a lot of piercing and a lot of heart attack, so this group here will be very good at taking out armor. Pretty decent for that, and, pretty competent overall, I'd say. So, yeah, you need to build a proper division. That's the key difference between armies in other Paradox games. While each unit you build fights independently in the battle, in this you actually have to mix and match a couple together. Which isn't too bad. It isn't too bad at all. So, this has been part 1 of the tutorials for Hearts of Iron. And I hope I've explained how units and production work pretty well. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I will answer them. And there will be more tutorials related to technology. Probably I can actually cover diplomacy, politics, and intelligence all under one topic. And then there might be some basic strategy videos, we'll see. So, without further ado, thank you everybody for watching. I've been your lovely host, Calvin, signing off.